The story begins with a bang. The human woke up to the sound of a low hum, his head pounding like a drum. The air smelled strange, metallic and sweet at the same time. He blinked, trying to clear his vision, but the room around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls glowed faintly, pulsing with a soft blue light, and the ceiling was so high he couldn't see where it ended. Panic set in as he realized he wasn't on Earth anymore. Before he could scream, a voice echoed through the room. "Welcome, human. You have been chosen." The voice belonged to a tall, slender alien with shimmering silver skin and eyes that glowed like stars. The alien explained that he was now part of an intergalactic exchange program and would be attending the most prestigious school in the galaxy. The human wanted to protest, to demand answers, but before he could speak, the alien handed him a strange uniform and said, "Your first class begins in 1 hour. Do not be late." As the human walked through the school's massive halls, he felt hundreds of eyes on him. The alien students whispered and pointed, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disdain. Some looked at him with awe, as if he were a mythical creature, while others glared like he didn't belong. He tried to ignore them, but the weight of their stares made his stomach churn. Just as he was about to enter his first class, a shadowy figure stepped in front of him. It was another alien, taller and more menacing than the others. "You shouldn't be here, human," the alien hissed. "This school is not for your kind. Leave now, or you'll regret it." The human's heart raced as the alien disappeared into the crowd. He didn't know what to do. Should he run? Should he stay? Before he could decide, the classroom door slid open, and the teacher, a towering alien with 4 arms and a voice like thunder, called his name. "Come in, human. Let's see what you're made of." As he stepped into the classroom, the human couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. Little did he know, the entire galaxy was watching. The classroom was unlike anything the human had ever seen. The walls were made of a material that seemed to shift and change colors, reflecting the mood of the room. The desks floated in mid-air, and the students sat on hovering chairs that adjusted to their size and shape. The teacher, a towering alien with 4 arms and a deep, resonant voice, gestured for the human to take a seat. As he sat down, the human noticed that the other students were staring at him. Some whispered to each other in languages he couldn't understand, while others simply watched him with cold, calculating eyes. He felt like an outsider, a stranger in a world that wasn't meant for him. The teacher began the lesson, speaking in a language that the human somehow understood. It was as if the words were being translated in his mind, though he couldn't explain how. The lesson was about the history of the galaxy, and the teacher spoke of ancient civilizations, great wars, and the rise and fall of empires. The human tried to focus, but his mind kept wandering. During a break, the human decided to explore the school. The halls were vast and labyrinthine, filled with strange sights and sounds. He saw alien students practicing telekinesis in one room, while in another, a group of students were building what looked like a miniature starship. The technology was beyond anything he had ever imagined, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. As he wandered, he noticed a small, timid-looking alien watching him from a distance. The alien had soft, glowing skin and large, expressive eyes. When the human approached, the alien flinched but didn't run away. "Hi," the human said, trying to sound friendly. "I'm new here. What's your name?" The alien hesitated before replying in a soft, melodic voice. "I am called Zara." "You are the human, yes?" The human nodded. "Yeah. I guess I'm the only one here." Zara smiled shyly. "You are very brave to come here. Many of the others, they do not like humans." "Why not?" the human asked, though he already had an idea. Zara looked around nervously before answering. "They say humans are dangerous. That you bring chaos wherever you go. But I do not believe that. I think you are, interesting. The human smiled, feeling a little less alone. Thanks, Zara. That means a lot. As they talked, the human learned more about the school and its students. Zara explained that the school was a place where the brightest minds from across the galaxy came to learn and grow. It was a place of great opportunity, but also great competition. Not everyone here is friendly, Zara warned. Some will try to test you, to see if you are worthy. You must be careful. The human nodded, taking her words to heart. He knew he would have to prove himself if he wanted to survive in this strange new world. Later that day, the human attended a class on alien biology. The teacher, a small, insect-like alien with multiple eyes, explained the different species in the galaxy and their unique abilities. The human listened intently, fascinated by the diversity of life. But the class took a turn when the teacher called on the human to answer a question. Human, the teacher said, can you tell us why your species is considered so primitive? The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the human. He felt a surge of anger but forced himself to stay calm. We may not have your technology, he said, but we have something you don't. And what is that? The teacher asked, clearly amused. Creativity, the human replied. We may not have all the answers, but we never stop looking for them. That's what makes us strong. The teacher seemed impressed, but some of the students scoffed. The human could feel the tension in the room, but he held his head high. He wasn't going to let anyone make him feel inferior. After class, Zara approached him. That was amazing, she said. You stood up to them. Not many would do that. The human shrugged. I'm just trying to survive. Zara smiled. You will do more than survive. I can feel it. As the days passed, the human began to adjust to life at the alien school. He made a few friends, including Zara, but he also made enemies. The rival alien who had warned him on his first day seemed to be everywhere, always watching, always waiting for the human to make a mistake. One evening, as the human was exploring the school's library, he stumbled upon a hidden door. It was tucked away in a corner, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Curiosity got the better of him, and he opened the door. Inside, he found a room filled with ancient artifacts, strange devices, glowing crystals, and scrolls written in languages he couldn't read. But what caught his attention was a large, holographic map of the galaxy. As he studied it, he noticed a small, blinking light near Earth. Before he could investigate further, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see the rival alien standing in the doorway, a smug look on his face. I knew you couldn't resist, the rival said. You humans are always so curious. But curiosity can be dangerous. The human's heart raced as the rival stepped closer. He didn't know what to do, but he knew one thing, he wasn't going to back down. The rival alien stepped into the hidden room, his eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and malice. The human stood his ground, though his heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know what the rival wanted, but he wasn't going to show fear. What are you doing here? The human asked, trying to sound confident. The rival smirked. I could ask you the same question. This room is off-limits to students. Especially humans. The human glanced around the room, taking in the strange artifacts and the glowing map. What is this place? The rival's smirk widened. This is where the school keeps its secrets. Secrets about your kind, human. Secrets you're not supposed to know. The human's curiosity burned stronger, but he knew he had to be careful. Why are you telling me this? The rival stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Because I want to see what you'll do. Humans are so unpredictable. Will you run? Will you fight? Or will you dig deeper and uncover the truth? Before the human could respond, the rival turned and walked out of the room, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The encounter left him shaken but more determined than ever to find out what was going on. Over the next few days, the human couldn't stop thinking about the hidden room. He spent every free moment in the library, searching for clues about the artifacts and the map. Zara noticed his distraction and asked him what was wrong. "I found something," the human admitted. "A hidden room with strange artifacts and a map of the galaxy. I think it's connected to Earth." Zara's eyes widened. "That's dangerous, human. If the school finds out you've been snooping around, they'll expel you, or worse." "I can't just ignore it," the human said. "There's something they're not telling us. Something about humans. I need to know what it is." Zara hesitated before nodding. "I'll help you. But we have to be careful." Together, they began to piece together the mystery. They discovered that the artifacts in the hidden room were ancient relics from a long-forgotten civilization, one that had once ruled the galaxy. The map, they realized, marked the locations of powerful artifacts scattered across the galaxy. One of those locations was Earth. "What does this mean?" the human asked, staring at the map. Zara frowned. "It means Earth is more important than anyone realizes. There's something there, something the school doesn't want anyone to find." The human's mind raced. Could this be why he was brought to the school? Was he part of some larger plan? Their investigation took a dangerous turn when they discovered a hidden message in one of the scrolls. It was written in an ancient language, but Zara managed to translate it. "It's a prophecy," she said, her voice trembling. "It speaks of a human who will change the galaxy. A human who will unite the species and bring peace." The human stared at her, stunned. "You think it's talking about me?" Zara nodded. "It's possible. That's why the school brought you here. They want to see if you're the one." The human felt a mix of excitement and fear. He didn't know if he believed in prophecies, but he couldn't deny that something big was happening. Their discovery didn't go unnoticed. One evening, as they were leaving the library, they were confronted by the school's headmaster, a tall, imposing alien with piercing eyes. "I hear you've been asking questions," the headmaster said, his voice cold. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing, human. It can lead to trouble." The human stood tall, refusing to back down. "I just want to know the truth. Why was I brought here? What are you hiding?" The headmaster's expression softened, but his tone remained stern. "You were brought here because you have potential. But potential can be dangerous if not guided properly. Stay out of trouble, human. Focus on your studies. That is all you need to know." The human wanted to argue, but he knew it was pointless. The headmaster wasn't going to give him any answers. As they walked away, Zara whispered, "We need to be more careful. If the headmaster is watching us, we're in real danger." The human nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something huge. The hidden room, the artifacts, the prophecy, it all pointed to a truth that could change everything. One night, unable to sleep, the human returned to the hidden room. He needed to see the map again, to study it more closely. As he entered the room, he noticed something he hadn't seen before, a small, glowing crystal hidden among the artifacts. When he picked it up, the crystal began to pulse with light, and a holographic image appeared in front of him. It was an alien, ancient and wise-looking, speaking in a language he couldn't understand. But as the image spoke, the words began to translate in his mind. "To the one who finds this," the alien said, "know that you are part of a greater destiny. The galaxy is at a crossroads, and you hold the key to its future. Seek the artifacts, unite the species, and bring peace to the stars." The image faded, leaving the human in stunned silence. He didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear, he couldn't ignore this. He had to find out more. As he left the room, he didn't notice the shadowy figure watching him from the hallway. The rival alien had been following him, and now he knew the human's secret. The next day, the human felt a growing sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Everywhere he went, he caught glimpses of the rival alien lurking in the shadows, his piercing eyes always fixed on him. The tension between them was palpable, and it was only a matter of time before it boiled over. The breaking point came during a practical class on alien technology. The students were tasked with building a device that could harness energy from a nearby star. The human, despite his lack of experience with alien tech, approached the task with creativity and determination. He used his knowledge of human engineering to come up with a unique design, earning curious glances from his classmates. The rival alien, however, wasn't impressed. "You think your primitive ideas will work here, human?" he sneered. "This isn't your little planet. You don't belong here." The human clenched his fists but kept his voice calm. "I'm just trying to learn, like everyone else." The rival stepped closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "You'll never be one of us. You're a mistake, a stain on this school. You should leave before you embarrass yourself further." The room fell silent as the other students watched the confrontation. The human felt the weight of their stares, but he refused to back down. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. "I have just as much right to be here as you do." The rival's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, it looked like he might attack. But before he could do anything, the teacher intervened. "Enough," the teacher barked. "This is a place of learning, not fighting. Both of you, focus on your work." The rival glared at the human before storming off, muttering under his breath. The human took a deep breath and returned to his project, but the encounter left him shaken. Later that day, Zara found him in the library. "I heard what happened," she said, her voice filled with concern. "Are you okay?" The human nodded, though he still felt a knot of anger in his chest. "I'm fine. I just don't understand why he hates me so much." Zara sighed. "Some aliens see humans as a threat. They think you're too unpredictable, too dangerous. But I think they're just afraid of what they don't understand." The human thought about the prophecy and the hidden room. "Maybe they're right to be afraid," he said quietly. "What if I really am part of something bigger? What if I'm supposed to change things?" Zara placed a hand on his shoulder. "If that's true, then you have to be careful. The rival won't stop trying to push you out. You need to be ready." The human nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. "I'll be ready." The rivalry came to a head during a school-wide competition. The challenge was to navigate a treacherous obstacle course using only their wits and the tools provided. The winner would earn the respect of the entire school, and the human was determined to prove himself. As the competition began, the human found himself face to face with the rival. The course was filled with traps, puzzles, and physical challenges, but the human used his creativity and adaptability to overcome each obstacle. The rival, relying on brute strength and advanced technology, struggled to keep up. Near the end of the course, the human reached a final challenge, a locked door that could only be opened by solving a complex puzzle. The rival arrived moments later, his face twisted in frustration. "You'll never figure it out," the rival spat. "You're just a human." The human ignored him and focused on the puzzle. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, but he remembered something Zara had told him: sometimes, the simplest solution is the best. He took a step back, looked at the puzzle from a different angle, and realized the answer was right in front of him. With a triumphant smile, he solved the puzzle and opened the door. The crowd of students watching from the sidelines erupted in cheers. Even the rival looked stunned. The human crossed the finish line first, earning the respect and admiration of his classmates. The rival, humiliated, stormed off without a word. As the human celebrated his victory, Zara approached him with a proud smile. "I knew you could do it," she said. The human grinned. I couldn't have done it without your help. But the victory was short-lived. Later that evening, as the human returned to his dorm, he found a note slipped under his door. It was from the rival, and it contained a chilling message. You may have won today, but this isn't over. You don't belong here, human. And I'll make sure you regret ever coming to this school. The human's heart sank as he read the note. He knew the rivalry wasn't just about pride or competition, it was about something much deeper. The rival saw him as a threat, and he wouldn't stop until the human was gone. But the human wasn't going to give up. He had come too far to let anyone push him out. He folded the note and tucked it away, his resolve stronger than ever. The next day, the human noticed a change in the way the other students treated him. Some looked at him with newfound respect, while others seemed wary, as if they weren't sure what to make of him. The rival, however, avoided him entirely, his hatred simmering beneath the surface. As the human walked through the halls, he couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. The prophecy, the hidden room, the rivalry, it was all connected. And he knew that whatever happened next, he would have to face it head-on. The days following the competition were tense. The human could feel the rival's eyes on him wherever he went, but he refused to let it distract him. He focused on his studies, determined to prove that he belonged at the school. But deep down, he couldn't stop thinking about the prophecy and the hidden room. One evening, as he was studying in the library, Zara approached him with a serious expression. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "I found something." The human followed her to a secluded corner of the library, where she pulled out a small, ancient-looking device. It was covered in strange symbols and glowed faintly. "What is it?" the human asked, his curiosity piqued. "It's a data crystal," Zara explained. "I found it hidden in the archives. It contains information about the prophecy, and about why you were brought here." The human's heart raced as Zara activated the crystal. A holographic image appeared, showing an alien historian speaking in a solemn tone. "Long ago," the historian began, "the galaxy was united under a single civilization. But greed and ambition tore it apart, leaving behind a legacy of war and mistrust. The Ancient Ones foresaw a time when a new leader would rise, a being from a distant world, capable of uniting the species once more. This being would be known as the Catalyst." The human stared at the image, his mind reeling. "The Catalyst, that's me?" Zara nodded. "The school's leaders have known about the prophecy for centuries. They've been searching for the Catalyst, and they believe it's you. That's why they brought you here, to test you, to see if you're the one." The human felt a mix of awe and fear. "But why keep it a secret? Why not just tell me?" "Because not everyone believes in the prophecy," Zara replied. "Some think it's a myth, while others see it as a threat. If the wrong people found out about you, it could put you in danger." The human thought about the rival and the headmaster's warning. "So what do I do now?" Zara hesitated before answering. "You have a choice. You can walk away, pretend none of this ever happened. Or you can embrace your destiny and find the artifacts mentioned in the prophecy. But be warned, it won't be easy. There are forces at work that will do anything to stop you." The human sat in silence, processing everything. He didn't know if he believed in destiny, but he couldn't ignore the feeling that he was meant for something greater. "I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll find the artifacts and see this through." Zara smiled, though her eyes were filled with worry. "Then I'll help you. But we have to be careful. The rival is already suspicious, and if he finds out what we're doing, he'll try to stop us." The human nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. "Let him try." Over the next few days, the human and Zara began their search for the artifacts. Using the map from the hidden room, they identified the locations of the artifacts scattered across the galaxy. The first one was on a distant planet, hidden deep within a treacherous jungle. But their plans were interrupted when the rival confronted them in the school's courtyard. "I know what you're up to," the rival said, his voice low and menacing. "You think you're special, don't you? The great catalyst, here to save the galaxy. But you're just a fool playing a dangerous game." The human stood his ground, refusing to back down. "This isn't a game. The galaxy is divided, and if the prophecy is true, I can help bring it together." The rival laughed bitterly. "You really believe that? The galaxy doesn't need a human to save it. It needs order, control. And I won't let you ruin everything." Before the human could respond, the rival turned and walked away, leaving him with a sinking feeling in his chest. Later that night, the human had a vivid dream. He was standing on a barren planet, surrounded by ancient ruins. In the center of the ruins was a glowing artifact, pulsing with energy. As he reached out to touch it, a voice echoed in his mind. "The path ahead is fraught with danger," the voice said. "But you must not falter. The fate of the galaxy rests in your hands." The human woke up in a cold sweat, the dream still fresh in his mind. He knew it was more than just a dream, it was a message, a sign that he was on the right path. The next morning, he and Zara made plans to leave the school and begin their journey to find the first artifact. But as they prepared to leave, they were confronted by the headmaster. "I know what you're planning," the headmaster said, his voice stern. "And I cannot allow it. The prophecy is too dangerous, too unpredictable. You must stay here, where we can protect you." The human shook his head. "I can't do that. If the prophecy is real, I have to see it through. I can't just sit back and do nothing." The headmaster's expression softened, but his tone remained firm. "You don't understand the risks. There are those who will stop at nothing to see the prophecy fail. If you leave, you'll be putting yourself, and everyone around you, in danger." The human looked at Zara, who nodded in silent support. "I understand the risks," he said. "But I have to try." The headmaster sighed, knowing he couldn't change the human's mind. "Very well. But know this, once you leave, you'll be on your own. The school cannot protect you out there." The human nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I'll take that chance." As he and Zara left the school, the human couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with fear. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing, he was ready to face it. The human and Zara left the school under the cover of night, using a small, borrowed spacecraft to begin their journey. The first artifact was located on a distant planet called Zyros, a world known for its dense jungles and dangerous wildlife. As they approached the planet, the human couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Are you sure about this?" Zara asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Zyros isn't exactly a friendly place." The human nodded, gripping the controls of the spacecraft. "We don't have a choice. If the artifact is there, we have to find it." They landed on the outskirts of the jungle, where the air was thick with humidity and the sounds of unseen creatures echoed through the trees. The human and Zara equipped themselves with basic supplies, a map, a portable scanner, and a few tools for protection. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the human couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The trees seemed to close in around them, and the ground was uneven and treacherous. "According to the map," Zara said, studying the scanner, "the artifact should be in a temple at the center of the jungle. But getting there won't be easy." The human nodded, his eyes scanning the dense foliage. "We'll take it one step at a time." Their journey was fraught with challenges. They encountered venomous plants, predatory animals, and natural obstacles like rivers and cliffs. But the human's resourcefulness and Zara's knowledge of alien ecosystems helped them overcome each hurdle. As they neared the temple, they were confronted by a massive, serpent-like creature guarding the entrance. Its scales shimmered in the dim light, and its eyes glowed with an eerie intelligence. "What do we do now?" Zara whispered, her voice trembling. The human thought quickly. We can't fight it. Maybe we can outsmart it. He remembered something he had learned in class about the creatures of Zyros. They were highly territorial but could be distracted by certain sounds. Using a small device from his toolkit, he created a high-pitched noise that echoed through the jungle. The creature hissed and turned its head, searching for the source of the sound. Seizing the opportunity, the human and Zara slipped past it and entered the temple. Inside, the air was cool and damp, and the walls were covered in ancient carvings depicting the history of the galaxy. At the center of the temple was a pedestal, and on it rested the artifact, a small, glowing orb that pulsed with energy. The human approached the artifact cautiously, feeling a strange connection to it. As he reached out to touch it, the carvings on the walls began to glow, and a voice echoed through the temple. To claim the artifact, the voice said, "You must prove your worth. Solve the riddle, and the power shall be yours." A holographic image appeared, showing a complex puzzle. The human studied it carefully, his mind racing. The puzzle was unlike anything he had ever seen, but he remembered the lessons he had learned at the school. Sometimes, the answer was simpler than it seemed. With Zara's help, he solved the puzzle, and the artifact's glow intensified. As he picked it up, he felt a surge of energy course through his body, as if the artifact was awakening something deep within him. "We did it," Zara said, her voice filled with awe. But their celebration was short-lived. As they left the temple, they were confronted by the rival alien, who had followed them to Zyros. "I knew you'd come here," the rival said, his voice cold. "Hand over the artifact, human. It doesn't belong to you." The human clutched the artifact tightly. "I can't do that. This is bigger than you or me." The rival's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. That artifact is dangerous in the wrong hands." "And what makes you think your hands are the right ones?" the human shot back. The rival didn't respond. Instead, he lunged at the human, trying to grab the artifact. The two struggled, their movements clumsy in the dense jungle. Zara tried to intervene, but the rival pushed her aside. In the chaos, the artifact slipped from the human's grasp and fell to the ground. It began to glow brighter and brighter, until a blinding light engulfed the area. When the light faded, the human, Zara, and the rival found themselves in a strange, otherworldly space. It was as if they had been transported to another dimension. What just happened?" Zara asked, her voice trembling. The human looked around, his mind racing. "I think the artifact activated. It must have some kind of teleportation ability." The rival glared at the human. "This is your fault. You have no idea what you're doing." Before the human could respond, a figure appeared in the distance. It was an alien, ancient and wise-looking, with a presence that commanded respect. "Welcome, travelers," the alien said. "You have been brought here to face the final test. Only by working together can you return to your world." The human, Zara, and the rival exchanged uneasy glances. They had no choice but to cooperate. The test was a series of challenges designed to test their teamwork, intelligence, and resolve. They had to solve puzzles, navigate treacherous terrain, and confront their deepest fears. At first, the rival resisted, refusing to work with the human. But as the challenges grew more difficult, he realized that they couldn't succeed without each other. In the final challenge, they were faced with a massive, impassable chasm. The only way across was a narrow bridge that required all three of them to balance it. "We have to do this together," the human said, extending a hand to the rival. The rival hesitated before finally nodding. "Fine. But this doesn't mean I trust you." With great effort, they crossed the bridge, each step requiring perfect coordination. When they reached the other side, the ancient alien appeared once more. "You have proven yourselves worthy," the alien said. "The artifact has chosen its bearer. Use its power wisely, for the fate of the galaxy rests in your hands. With a flash of light, they were transported back to the jungle. The artifact was now fused to the human's hand, its glow dim but steady. The rival looked at the human, his expression unreadable. "This isn't over," he said before turning and walking away. Zara placed a hand on the human's shoulder. "Are you okay?" The human nodded, though his mind was racing. "I think so. But this is just the beginning. We have a long way to go." As they made their way back to the spacecraft, the human couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. The artifact was more than just a tool, it was a symbol of the responsibility he now carried. But he also knew that the challenges ahead would be greater than anything he had faced so far. The rival, the school, and the forces that sought to stop him were still out there, waiting for their chance to strike. The journey back to the school was tense. The human and Zara barely spoke, both lost in their thoughts. The artifact, now fused to the human's hand, pulsed faintly, a constant reminder of the weight of their mission. The rival's parting words echoed in the human's mind, "This isn't over." When they arrived at the school, they were met with silence. The halls were empty, and the usual hum of activity was gone. It was as if the entire school was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. "Something's wrong," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. The human nodded, his senses on high alert. "Let's find the headmaster. He'll know what's going on." But before they could take another step, a group of alien students emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. At the front of the group was the rival, his expression cold and unreadable. "You shouldn't have come back," the rival said, his voice dripping with disdain. The human stepped forward, his hand glowing faintly as the artifact reacted to his emotions. "What's going on? Where is everyone?" The rival smirked. "The headmaster has been detained. As for the others, they've been told to stay out of this. This is between you and me." Zara stepped beside the human, her voice trembling with anger. "You're making a mistake. The artifact chose him for a reason. You can't just take it." The rival's eyes narrowed. "I don't care about your prophecies or your destiny. The artifact belongs to the school, and I'm going to make sure it stays here." The human clenched his fists, the artifact's glow intensifying. "I won't let you." The rival laughed bitterly. "You really think you can stop me? You're just a human. You don't belong here." Before the human could respond, the rival signaled to the group, and they lunged forward. The human and Zara fought back, but they were outnumbered. The artifact's power surged, creating a protective barrier around the human, but it wasn't enough to stop the rival. In the chaos, Zara was knocked to the ground, and the human was forced to his knees. The rival stood over him, a triumphant smile on his face. "It's over, human," the rival said, reaching for the artifact. But as his hand touched the glowing orb, a shockwave of energy erupted, throwing everyone back. The human felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. The artifact was reacting to his emotions, amplifying his strength and resolve. He stood up, his eyes glowing with the same light as the artifact. "You're wrong," he said, his voice steady and powerful. "This isn't over." The rival stared at him, his confidence wavering. What are you?" The human didn't respond. Instead, he focused on the artifact, channeling its energy to create a burst of light that disoriented the group. In the confusion, he grabbed Zara's hand and ran, leaving the rival and his followers behind. They didn't stop until they reached a hidden part of the school, a place Zara had discovered during their earlier investigations. It was a small, secluded room filled with ancient technology and forgotten knowledge. "We can't stay here long," Zara said, her voice filled with urgency. "The rival will come after us." The human nodded, his mind racing. "We need a plan. We can't keep running." Zara hesitated before speaking. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you sooner. The human looked at her, his heart sinking. What is it? Zara took a deep breath. The rival, he's not acting alone. He's working with someone inside the school. Someone who wants to stop you from fulfilling the prophecy. The human's eyes widened. Who? Before Zara could answer, the door to the room slid open, and a figure stepped inside. It was the headmaster, his expression grim. I'm sorry, Zara said, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't have a choice. The human stared at her, his heart breaking. You betrayed me? Zara's eyes filled with tears. They threatened my family. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. The headmaster stepped forward, his voice cold and unyielding. This ends now, human. Hand over the artifact, and we'll let you leave in peace. The human shook his head, his resolve hardening. I can't do that. The artifact chose me for a reason. I won't let you take it. The headmaster sighed, his expression softening. You don't understand. The artifact is too powerful, too dangerous. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy the galaxy. And what makes you think your hands are the right ones? The human shot back. The headmaster didn't respond. Instead, he signaled to a group of guards, who stepped into the room, their weapons drawn. The human knew he was outmatched, but he refused to give up. He focused on the artifact, channeling its energy to create a burst of light that blinded the guards. In the chaos, he grabbed Zara's hand and ran, leaving the headmaster and his followers behind. As they fled, Zara pulled away, her eyes filled with guilt. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. The human looked at her, his heart torn between anger and sadness. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. But please, let me help you. I want to make this right. The human hesitated before finally nodding. We'll figure this out together. But no more secrets. Zara smiled weakly. No more secrets. As they disappeared into the shadows, the human couldn't shake the feeling that the betrayal was just the beginning. The headmaster, the rival, and the forces that sought to stop him were still out there, waiting for their chance to strike. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. Despite everything, Zara was still by his side, and together, they would face whatever came next. The human and Zara moved quickly through the hidden corridors of the school, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The betrayal still weighed heavily on the human's heart, but he pushed the pain aside, focusing on the task at hand. They needed to find a way out of the school and continue their mission to locate the remaining artifacts. We can't stay here, Zara said, her voice low and urgent. The headmaster will have every exit guarded. The human nodded, his mind racing. Is there another way out? Something the headmaster wouldn't know about? Zara hesitated before answering. There's an old maintenance tunnel that leads to the outskirts of the school. It hasn't been used in years, but it might still be accessible. Let's try it, the human said. They made their way to the tunnel, which was hidden behind a rusted door in the school's lower levels. The air was damp and musty, and the walls were covered in moss. It was clear that no one had been here in a long time. As they navigated the narrow passage, the human couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The artifact on his hand pulsed faintly, as if reacting to the tension in the air. Do you think the headmaster was telling the truth? The human asked suddenly. About the artifact being dangerous? Zara glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. I don't know. The headmaster has always been secretive, but he's not usually dishonest. If he believes the artifact is a threat, there might be some truth to it. The human frowned. But the prophecy says the artifact is the key to uniting the galaxy. How can it be dangerous? Maybe it's both, Zara suggested. Powerful tools can be used for good or evil. It all depends on who wields them. The human nodded, her words resonating with him. He knew he had to be careful with the artifact, but he also knew he couldn't let fear stop him from fulfilling his destiny. When they finally reached the end of the tunnel, they emerged into a dense forest on the outskirts of the school. The air was fresh and cool, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the tunnel. "We need to find a place to regroup," Zara said. "Somewhere the headmaster and the rival won't think to look." The human thought for a moment before remembering a small, abandoned outpost he had seen on the map. "There's a place not far from here. It's old, but it should give us some cover." They made their way to the outpost, which was little more than a crumbling structure surrounded by overgrown vegetation. Inside, they found basic supplies and a functioning communication terminal. "This might work," Zara said, examining the terminal. "If we can access the school's network, we might be able to find out what the headmaster is planning." The human nodded, his determination renewed. "Let's do it." As Zara worked on the terminal, the human kept watch, his senses on high alert. The forest was quiet, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. After a few minutes, Zara let out a frustrated sigh. "The network is heavily encrypted. I can't get in without triggering an alarm." The human frowned. "There has to be another way." "What about the artifact? Maybe it can help." Zara looked at him, her eyes widening. "That's not a bad idea. The artifact is connected to ancient technology. It might be able to bypass the encryption." The human held out his hand, focusing on the artifact. He felt a surge of energy as the orb began to glow, its light spreading to the terminal. The screen flickered before displaying a series of files. "It worked!" Zara exclaimed, her fingers flying over the controls. "I'm in." As they scanned the files, they discovered the headmaster's true intentions. He had been working with a faction of aliens who believed the prophecy was a threat to their power. They planned to use the artifact to control the galaxy, eliminating anyone who stood in their way. "This is worse than we thought," Zara said, her voice filled with dread. "If the headmaster gets his hands on the artifact, he'll use it to enslave the galaxy." The human clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. "We can't let that happen. We have to stop him." Zara nodded, her expression grim. "But we can't do it alone. We need allies." The human thought for a moment before remembering the rival. Despite their differences, the rival had shown a glimmer of understanding during their confrontation on Zyros. Maybe he could be reasoned with. "What about the rival?" the human asked. "He's not working with the headmaster willingly. If we can convince him to join us, we might have a chance." Zara hesitated before nodding. "It's risky, but it might be our only option." They made their way back to the school, using the tunnel to avoid detection. When they reached the rival's quarters, they found him alone, his expression dark and brooding. "What are you doing here?" the rival demanded, his voice filled with suspicion. The human stepped forward, his hand glowing faintly. "We know the truth about the headmaster. He's planning to use the artifact to control the galaxy. We need your help to stop him." The rival stared at him, his eyes narrowing. "Why should I trust you? You're the one who brought this chaos to the school." "Because this isn't just about me," the human said, his voice steady. "This is about the future of the galaxy. If the headmaster succeeds, no one will be free. Not even you." The rival hesitated, his expression conflicted. Finally, he let out a frustrated sigh. "Fine. I'll help you. But this doesn't mean I trust you." The human nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "That's good enough for me." Together, the human, Zara, and the rival formulated a plan to confront the headmaster and expose his true intentions. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they had no choice. As they prepared to face the headmaster, the human felt a surge of determination. This was the turning point, the moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. And he was ready. The human, Zara, and the rival moved swiftly through the school's halls, their footsteps silent but purposeful. The artifact on the human's hand pulsed faintly, its glow a constant reminder of the stakes. They knew the headmaster would be waiting for them, but they also knew they had the element of surprise, and each other. When they reached the headmaster's chamber, they found him standing at the center of the room, surrounded by a group of loyal followers. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with a cold intensity. "I was wondering when you'd show up," the headmaster said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "I must admit, I'm impressed. You've come further than I expected." The human stepped forward, his voice steady. "It's over, headmaster. We know what you're planning, and we won't let you succeed." The headmaster chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. "You think you can stop me? You're just a child, playing with forces you don't understand." "Maybe," the human said, his hand glowing brighter. "But I'm not alone." Zara and the rival stepped forward, standing beside him. The headmaster's followers shifted uneasily, their confidence wavering. The headmaster's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake. The artifact is too powerful for you to control. Hand it over, and I'll let you leave in peace." The human shook his head. "I can't do that. The artifact chose me for a reason. I won't let you use it to hurt anyone." The headmaster sighed, his expression hardening. "Very well. If you won't see reason, then I'll have to take it from you." He signaled to his followers, who lunged forward. The human, Zara, and the rival fought back, their movements quick and precise. The artifact's power surged, creating a protective barrier around the human, but the headmaster's followers were relentless. In the chaos, the rival found himself face to face with the headmaster. "You lied to me," the rival said, his voice filled with anger. "You said the artifact would bring order, not control." The headmaster's expression softened, but his tone remained cold. "Order requires control. You of all people should understand that." The rival hesitated, his resolve wavering. But then he remembered the human's words, "This is about the future of the galaxy," and his expression hardened. "No. I won't let you do this." He turned and joined the human and Zara, his loyalty finally clear. Together, the three of them fought with everything they had, their combined strength pushing the headmaster's followers back. The headmaster, realizing he was losing, made a desperate move. He activated a hidden device, causing the chamber to shake violently. The walls began to collapse, and the floor cracked open, revealing a deep chasm. "If I can't have the artifact," the headmaster said, his voice filled with rage, "then no one will." The human felt a surge of panic as the ground beneath him gave way. He grabbed Zara's hand, and the rival grabbed his, forming a chain. The artifact's glow intensified, creating a bridge of light that allowed them to cross the chasm. When they reached the other side, they turned to see the headmaster standing alone, his expression filled with despair. "It's over," the human said, his voice filled with pity. "You don't have to do this." The headmaster shook his head, his eyes filled with regret. "It's too late for me. But it's not too late for you. Use the artifact wisely. The galaxy is counting on you." With that, the headmaster stepped into the chasm, disappearing into the darkness. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the faint hum of the artifact. The human, Zara, and the rival stood in stunned silence, the weight of what had just happened settling over them. "It's over," Zara said finally, her voice filled with relief. The human nodded, but his expression was somber. "Not yet. We still have a lot of work to do." Over the next few weeks, the human, Zara, and the rival worked together to rebuild the school and expose the truth about the headmaster's plans. The artifact's power helped them heal the damage and bring the students together, uniting them in a common purpose. The rival, once an enemy, became a trusted ally. He apologized for his actions and vowed to help the human fulfill the prophecy. As for the human, he knew his journey was far from over. The artifact was just the beginning. There were still other relics to find, other challenges to face. But he also knew he wasn't alone. He had Zara, the rival, and the support of the entire school. One evening, as the human stood on the school's rooftop, looking up at the stars, Zara joined him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, her voice soft. The human smiled. "The future. There's so much we still have to do, but I'm not afraid anymore. I know we can do it, together." Zara nodded, her eyes filled with hope. "We will. And no matter what happens, we'll face it together." The human looked at the artifact on his hand, its glow steady and reassuring. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he also knew he was ready. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but it was also full of possibilities. And with the artifact's power and the support of his friends, the human knew he could make a difference. As the stars twinkled above, the human felt a sense of peace. He had come a long way from the scared, confused teenager who had first arrived at the school. He had faced betrayal, danger, and loss, but he had also found friendship, courage, and purpose. And as he looked out at the galaxy, he knew his legacy was just beginning.